the Madman! Welcome to the top cards of the week. We'll jump right into Squawk's Woodbeak, a 5-mana hero card. For Druid, Battlecry, transform all of your treants into carousel animals. 2 health, presumably to match the theme of the treants. Whimsical Wood is the passive hero power. Whenever you summon a treant, transform it into a carousel animal. The carousel animals are either a 2/2 Beast Wind Fury, a 2/2 Mech with Rush, a 2/2 Dragon with Taunt, or a 2/2 Murloc with Death Rattle. Add 1/1 Murloc to your hand. Design 1 star, balance 1 star. For the most part, all of those abilities are worth a little bit less than 1 mana. So you pay 5 mana to immediately improve your treants by like a fraction of a mana apiece, and then all future treants are a little bit better. The flavor is that you're building these carousel animals out of wood, but that really doesn't match the flavor of Squawk's Woodbeak's encounter at all. The 2 health is also very strange. I mean, yes, there's a lot of 2s between the treants and the carousel animals. All in all, I think this really fails to capture the flavor of Squawk's Woodbeak, and I think it is a pathetically weak card. I am not entirely sure if this card would be played at 2 mana, because you also lose all of the treant synergy. Tropical Island, 6 mana hunter card. Transform all minions into 2/3 raving crabs with taunt. Each turn they swap sides. This is insanity on a level that is even past Spreading Plague. Design 1 star, balance 1 star. Spreading Plague has the benefit that doesn't, damage your own board, whereas Tropical Island does. But given that the crabs are swapping sides each turn, basically you kill your entire opponent's board, and not just kill, but silence and kill. And then you get all of their minions as 2/3 taunts. It's like, holy crab, that's insane. It's unclear if these raving crabs can attack each turn, or if they can never attack, but either way is terrible. There's nothing salvageable about this card at all, and I think people upvoted this because people like crabs.
We're going to the zoo, zoo, zoo. How about you?
We have Tam, a 3-mana 5/5 Hunter Beast. Battlecry, summon a 1/1 Immune Mouse for your opponent. Jerry, very creative. Design 4 stars, balance 2 stars. The reason for the hit on the design, even though I think it very well captures the flavor of the cartoon this is inspired by, Tom and Jerry, it's very difficult to actually balance it. And this is a part where, design and balance do have to intertwine a bit. The effect is so big for the opponent that it's very difficult to give yourself a big enough payoff. Right now, the balance is a 2 because I think it's too weak. At best, Tam is a 5/4 because he'll come into play and Jerry will attack into it, and you have a 3-mana 5/4, but you gave your opponent basically a Dreadsteed. But it gets worse from there, because if the opponent has buffs, like you just lost, a 1/1 immune is really, really powerful. It's not impossible to balance this, but that's where the design hurts, because in order to balance this card, you'd have to buff Tam with so many stats, and then that becomes extremely dangerous the other way, because this could be a face deck. Imagine if Tam was a 6/6 or a 7/7. 3-mana 7/7 hits your opponent really hard, especially if they don't actually have a way to buff Jerry and have no way to deal with Tam. In short, this is a really cool top-down design, where the idea was to create a Tom and Jerry card, but it is very, very difficult to balance out these particular effects. There's some ideas like making Jerry can't be targeted so that the opponent can't buff it, and then with a buff to Tam. I'm thinking like 6/6 or 5/6. But again, it is a Dreadsteed you're giving to the opponent, so that is a very heavy cost. And I like cards with big drawbacks, so perhaps that might work. Cheat! Rogue Legendary, 5 mana, draw 2 cards from your opponent's deck. Love it. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. Originally, I had docked the balance down to 3 and then to 4 because I personally feel like this should be 4 mana, but I'm going to rate the balance based off of how I think Blizzard would print the card. And certainly, when you have a disruptive element like this, with no real prior precedent other than Void Contract. Sure, perhaps 5 mana is the safer way to play it. I think the bad news is at 5 mana, there is no rogue deck that would ever play this card because it's good against exactly combo decks, and then you have to hit their combo pieces by randomly drawing 2 cards from their deck. Arcane Intellect costs 3 mana, and you're drawing cards you want from your deck. For 5 mana, you draw cards from the opponent's deck, which might not synergize from yours. So I do personally believe this should be 4 mana, but I'm not going to hit the balance because it is a dangerous effect. It is very disruptive, but I think that such disruptive effects can be fine. At 4 mana, you're still getting a bad deal. It's less good than Arcane Intellect, and I still don't know if it would be played. It certainly wouldn't be played at 5 mana though. But nice and elegant, and I think this fits the rogue flavor very well. And sure, it's a good idea for a rogue deck whose plan is to fatigue, because you'll draw out your opponent faster. But we haven't seen one of those in a while either. Alexstrasza. 9 mana, 8/8 mech, neutral. Battlecry set a hero's armor to 10. Design 3 stars, balance 5 stars. First of all, Blizzard would never print a card with leet speak, because can you imagine how hard it is to search up A13X5-TR45ZA? I am docking 2 points off of design for this name. Terrible name. Enough of the mechanized cards having a name that just replaces numbers with letters. Wait, snip snap? Okay, well that's 2 numbers, okay? This is too much! Too much! Also though, I think the flavor is wrong on this one. Clearly, it was trying to mirror Alexstrasza, but Alexstrasza's effect sets a hero's health total of 15. This is really different, and I feel like it doesn't even need to be a mech. You could completely reflavor this card into something completely different, and I think that would be more appropriate. I think it's a well-balanced card, and it's a cool tech card for the meta, but also, it's nice to just play it as a 9 mana 8/8, gain 10 health. And getting 10 armor is better than gaining 10 health also. But in the case that warriors are, at 50 armor or 100 armor, if it's ever that kind of meta, I think a card like this would be a very cool tech card. Boomsday Souvenir. 4 mana 2/4, Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Spark with Rush, a 0/2 Goblin Bomb, and a 1/1 Microbot. It's also a mech. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars, but I have to say it's extremely dangerous. I like the art on this a lot, and it fits so well. It's clearly a Goblin Bomb being connected with sparks to some sort of body, which in this case is the Microbot. Very clever. When you add up the stats, you are paying 4 mana for 2/4 and 2/4 worth of value after the Death Rattle dies. And that is really dangerous. 4 mana, 4/8 worth of value. But half of the value comes after the Death Rattle. The card itself is pretty weak at the baseline, and you do have to synergize with the resultant 0/2 Goblin Bomb. So for those reasons, I think this just might barely be okay. There's the problem that it's very difficult to nerf the card because it's so cleverly designed around adding the stats of all of the pieces together, and I do feel like 5 mana would be way too weak. Vanessa Van Cleef, 4 mana 2/2 Rogue Legendary. Pirate. Start of game, if your deck has no weapons, your hero has Wind Fury this game. Design, 1 star, balance, 1 star. I don't think this captures the flavor of Vanessa Van Cleef at all. Given that Edwin Van Cleef isn't a pirate, Vanessa Van Cleef probably shouldn't be one. And the Madman has done it again. The people of Custom Hearthstone have put an insane start of game ability onto something with very little deck restriction. So just put no weapons in your deck, which is already happening with quite a few rogue decks, and then your hero has Wind Fury. You might even consider running Stolen Steel into this deck, and then hit your opponent really hard with Wind Fury, but I actually think that still doesn't make this card that good, even though the intent is probably to run this card with Stolen Steel. It's just all about the dagger and weapon buffs that do make this card insane, and I would argue that even without weapon buffs in the deck, that start of game ability is still way too strong. And this trade-off is not enough. You'd have to put quite a debilitating effect for this to not be insane. I will also say that I dislike the fact that she's a 4 mana 2/2. Having cards that suck when you draw them, this one just sucks too much. Akanai Vindicator. Paladin, 4 mana, 4/3. Death Rattle, summon a 0/2 soul. Cast any spells that were cast on this minion on it. Design 3 stars, balance 3 stars. This is just a worse Vorax. Vorax immediately does any spells that were cast on it onto, a copy. This is a Death Rattle. On top of it, it's a negative Death Rattle because if your opponent kills this card with a spell, then they also kill the soul. So for being a weaker version of the Vorax, I have to give the balance 3 stars, and because it's so similar to the Vorax, but has its own unique twist to it, I have to give the design only 3. I do like the twist on the design in that both sides spells are cast on this. Probably could be an interesting card if the baseline stats were better. For example, a 3 mana 3/3. We have Crisp, a mage 0 mana 1/1 elemental. Freeze any character damaged by this minion. Design 4 stars, balance 5 stars. Pretty simple, and I think that a mage class card, which is strictly better than Wisp, could work. It's a little bit dangerous since it also has the elemental tag, but I think that's sufficient. And this week's trump card is Prescient Healer, 4 mana 3/4. Whenever your opponent draws a card, restore health to your hero equal to its cost. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. I like the card a lot because it does play off of a very minor Paladin theme that has been explored in the past, which is top card mana cost matters. See Holy Wrath. This one interacts off of your opponent's top card, which is interesting because it gives you a little bit of information. It does always restore some amount of health, and you get a little bit of information based off of that health, so a little bit of a skill testing card. It is similar to Benevolent Djinn, a 3 mana 2/4. For 1 more mana and 1 more attack, you get that bonus of going off of your opponent's card draw, which will probably usually be on average-ish 3 health, which is about the same as Benevolent Djinn. For that reason, I actually think this card could be a little bit stronger. In fact, I am going to revise my balance rating of this into 4 stars. When I compared it with Benevolent Djinn, I'm like, okay, fine, this card could be a bit stronger. How about a 4 mana 4/4? There. Then that card's perfect. It's even not that great, per se, even as the increased 4 mana 4/4, because you want health gain against aggressive decks, and aggressive decks tend to have lower mana curves, so you won't gain as much health against the more aggressive decks. For that reason, I really think it should be a 4 mana 4/4, but I really like the idea of it, of healing based off of clairvoyance of some sort. Cool cards! I'm looking forward to what our custom Hearthstone designers are going to come out now that we see the Old Doom theme. So we're going to start seeing some Old Doom themed cards.